Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie Dow, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. All right, before we get started, make sure that you go to Secrets from the Saddle podcast.ca and sign up for our newsletter. It's not really a newsletter, but it's an email notification that will let you know every time an episode is released. So that's weekly, but if you go to Secrets from the Saddle podcast.ca, you will get an email notification so you don't have to always be checking the platforms. So make sure you do that and have an amazing day. Thank you. All right, everybody. Guess who we have on the podcast today? It is Lisa Charlebois. And wouldn't you know it, she is from Ottawa, which is where I am. And she's living in the States. So I just found her on Instagram. But the reason why I asked her was because she's going to talk about randonneuring. Or randonneur. So randonneuring is epic. Like it's basically the endurance cycling of endurance cycling. And then we're talking about 200, 300, 400, 600 kilometer rides, weekend long rides that they go on. So she just completed Paris Brest Paris, which is 1,200 kilometers. We're going to be talking to her about that and just how she got into it. So I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, welcome back for another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Dow. And I have Lisa Charlebois.
Oui, oui.
Who is, now that I just read her bio, is actually from Ottawa. And I found her, I was watching her, I was like stalking her on Instagram like I do most people that I find for my podcast. And I did not realize that. But the really cool thing about Lisa is she's an endurance cyclist. So that's kind of where I'm going, but I'm not quite going where she is going and where we're going to talk about. So over the last 20 years, she has a lot of cycling underneath her belt. She started her bike journey in Toronto and is now living in San Francisco. She's like I said, she's from Ottawa and she comes back regularly to ride with friends. But she started, the reason why I've got Lisa here is because she does randonneuring. I'm just kidding. Randonneur.
We can do it all American. Randonneuring.
Yeah, randonneuring. Rando. Yeah. But anyways, randonneuring is an extreme. It's like the epic cycling of distances. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking, 400 kilometer rides, like random, like just going out riding for 400 kilometers, 600 kilometers. She got into this type of training and riding when she heard about Paris Brest Paris. Now, I know a couple people who've done that. That's in Europe. I think it's Paris to Brest. Oh, it is Brest because Paris to Brest and then Brest back to Paris.
That's the one.
And it's how long? How many? It's 1,200 kilometers. Mm-hmm. Is that right? 1,200 kilometers. Yeah. And it's like the fast, like it's whoever gets there first. So that's why I was like, Lisa, you got to come on and you've got to talk about this because I haven't had anybody in the space of talking about randonneuring. And so, Lisa, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh.
It's exciting.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
We got a Canadian here. So, all right. Well, my first question is always about how you got into cycling. And how did it lead you into deciding that this is the type of cycling you want to do?
So I started biking. Yeah. It's you have to have a couple screws loose to do rando, I think, but we'll get there.
You're still young though.
Yeah. But I started biking, 20 years ago when I met my husband, and he was a big cyclist. And so I was in Toronto at the time. And I mean, the Toronto biking scene is fantastic. Back in the day when I was riding, there was the donut ride. I think it's still happening.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty classic route. And I got my first bike at La Bicicletta. I mean, there's just so much cool community in Toronto. And I think now, 20 years later, it's definitely gotten even more richer. And so my professional career sent me to the States. So I moved to New York City. I was there for 4 years. I think I biked like 3 times. So it's not
a little different.
Yeah, it's not the New York of today with like the West Side Highway and all that. It was bananas crazy. So the bike went away for a few years. Then we got transferred to Los Angeles, and you wouldn't expect it, but LA has an incredible cycling scene. It's so good. And so I would encourage everyone, definitely check out Los Angeles if you can, if you're there for work.
Really?
Oh my gosh. The riding in the Santa Monica Mountains is just phenomenal. So world class. Anyway, so Los Angeles, and then again, one last move up here to San Francisco, and that's where I currently live.
So can I ask you what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm a creative director. So I make ads. That's my gig.
Like for TV?
I've done television, I've done digital websites, things like that. So yeah, all sorts of different marketing campaigns. And I worked at ad agencies in New York and LA and tech in San Francisco. And now I'm back at ad agencies. So yeah.
Oh, so you don't work for yourself?
I do.
Some night a little bit. You have time for that now that you're randonneuring or randoing?
I mean, honestly, yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, my company is very supportive, which is really nice. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, so give us the lowdown on how you decided. So now you're in San Francisco, and you're riding all over there. How did you decide, or what led you to get into long endurance riding, even longer than the regular long endurance stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Like where a century sort of ends is where we begin. So
that's why I just warmed up. Now let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, having ridden a lot, and usually old me would have been like, yeah, you do a Grand Fondo every year and a couple centuries, imperial centuries, whatnot. But my husband was turning 50 on August 19th of 2023. And Paris Brest Paris starts on August 21st of 2023. And so this was a couple years back, and we both had known of this event. I mean, it's a pretty iconic, it's the oldest cycling event in the world. So like before the Tour de France, Paris Brest Paris was
really?
Yeah, it was a competitive event. So if you can think like 18 blah, a bunch of dudes were like crushing it going from Paris to Brest and back as a competitive timed event. Since as a randonneuring event, randonneuring in general is timed events, but there's no winner. There's no first place, second place. It is a timed event. You're encouraged to use as much of that time or as little as you want. And you have to pass through different checkpoints on the way. So just to make sure that you're not jumping in a car and,
not making it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So really Paris Brest Paris was where we kind of were like, oh, this would be the ultimate way to celebrate your 50th birthday. It's kind of, I like riding my bike. I mean, so.
Well, I guess if you're not like having to race super fast, like you're taking your, enjoying a bit of the scenery, because it's like 600K and 600K.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely a different style of riding, to your point. Exactly. Like zone 2 is about your max. Like you are going past that. And to be honest, it's kind of like zone 1 for 20 hours, like given the terrain and what's going to happen. But you're essentially just in this sort of like long haul way of riding, and nobody's doing flat out sprints on these things. Like, absolutely not. And if you are, you're going to pay for it dearly.
Yeah. So Lisa, I've heard that you have to qualify for this. Like you have to have, because I one of my friends, this woman that I know went to did, I don't know how many years ago, probably like maybe 10. And I remember when she was training for it, she had to get signed off that she could ride a certain distance. Maybe it was 600 kilometers in one shot, or maybe it was 200. I can't remember, but it was long.
Yeah.
And is that still part of?
Oh yeah, very much. So PBP is it's very, you can't just roll up and be like, I'm ready, let's go. Like it doesn't work like that.
I just decide to.
yeah. Like I like riding too. So it's kind of a 2-year process to get into the event. So the first year is you have to they take your longest ride. And again, even the rides are very specific. You can't just go and ride 600 kilometers and say I did it. It has to be an ACP, an Audax de Club Parisien sanctioned ride. So your local randonneur club will offer these rides. So they'll have a bunch of routes. So the Ontario Randonneurs, up here, the San Francisco Randonneurs, there's all sorts of different clubs. And the routes that they have are approved by the club in Paris. So yes, this is an official 600 kilometer ride. If you finish this will work towards your entry fee or your entry qualification.
Right.
So the first 2021, I did a 600 kilometer ride, and that kind of guaranteed my spot. So that allowed me to sort of hold a position to then qualify. Now, to qualify, you have to do a randonneur series or a super randonneur series. And that is a 200, 300, 400, and 600 kilometer ride. And you have to finish all of those, I think by like July 30 something or June 30 or something like that of the year of PBP.
The one that you're participating in.
Exactly. So the event starts in August. And I think, again, there's a deadline of like July something or other to get these events done. So now you have to go and do ACP sanctioned 200, 300, 400, 600. And if you DNF one, you got to find one somewhere else. So our club offered all sorts of different rides that you could go and do.
Okay.
But,
is this with like certified riders that can certifiably say that she did that ride with me? It was this course. So you could just go out and do any one of those loops, but you have to be with somebody, or is it Strava is okay? Like
no. Well, what happens is you would do it with that club. So the Seattle Randonneurs, the whatever. And they offer the route so that the route is ACP certified. You do it's almost like signing up for a Grand Fondo. You go and you do the route with everyone else.
Okay.
And now, but to your point, the route itself, there's checkpoints to make sure that you have actually done it. So a lot of times it's an electronic checkpoint, and you're right, your head mount computer will just sort of go through a point and it'll be like, yes, you have passed this, whatever, 200 kilometer mark.
Right.
On PBP, they actually give you a little passport, and you get it stamped at each checkpoint control, which is actually really cool. So,
because you get to keep it. You get to keep it with your shoulder.
Oh, I totally have it. It's like my prized possession. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so that's like, you complete that randonneur series, you do it by the time, and then poof, you have your ticket to go to Paris. And that's what we did.
Oh my God. Okay, well, tell us about the event. Okay, when did you go and do the event?
So we left maybe about 5 or 6 days before. So like August, I don't know.
Was that this was this year, right?
Yeah. So August 21st is when it happened. And so we went a little bit early to just try to acclimatize, which to be honest didn't really work very well. But
jet lag, you mean?
Oh boy. Yeah, time change really kind of kicks your keister. But and just like get organized, build our bikes, get our food ready, all that sort of stuff. And also too, the town of Rambouillet is where the event takes place, like the start. And it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's like Burning Man on bikes. Like, it is a vibe. Everyone is just like living their best life. There's bikes everywhere. Like, it's like
How many
mecca
people
for
started?
6,800. So
What?
yeah,
Really?
from 180 different countries. Like, you're talking people from all over the world, and
Oh, I
all these
wonder.
people. Well, and each one of those individuals completed the same amount of work that you did.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
all
because you
did
have
that
to.
series. Exactly. So it's pretty cool. Like, everyone's in the club, you know?
So, oh my God, I wonder how many people did it when she went. Because I have a feeling it was much smaller
Yeah, this
than.
was a big year. Like, I think every year it gets more popular and whatnot.
So,
But
what do they do with so many people? I guess they
yeah,
must stagger the start a little bit. I mean,
exactly.
6,800 is like
So there's actually 3 starting
waves.
well,
Yeah, fast, medium, slow.
groups. Kind of. So you can sign up for 80 hours, 84 hours, or 90 hours. And that's your time
Oh,
to completion. Yeah.
okay, how long did it take you?
I did mine in 78 hours and 27 minutes.
78 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was in the 84-hour group.
I would still be out there
Yeah.
because I did I did I did Unbound XL. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
500, but
Yeah.
like in 33 hours.
Well, you're on track.
33, 66.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to pick it up a little bit. I'd be the 94 hour.
Yeah.
So what did you do? What was your strategy for sleep? Did you do any? You must have.
Yeah. And that's the thing. These timed events, it's like once the gun goes off, the clock doesn't stop. So you're sleeping, eating, everything is part of that time. So for us, in the 78.5 hours, we slept about nine and a half. So the first day, yeah. This is when randonneuring, the numbers just sound mental. So you just kind of have to like hold on and realize that we're in a different planet right now. So the first day of PVP was 270 miles, which I don't know, 400 and something.
Yeah, it's like
kilometers. Yeah. So that was day 1, and then we slept for 4 hours. Day 2 was out and back, so it was Ludiac to Brest and then back to Ludiac. So that was a light day,
okay.
Air quotes light. It was only 210 miles or something. And then the last day was again that like 280. Now, the elevation is the other part that we haven't talked about. And the entire elevation of PVP is almost 39,000 feet. And so, you know, you don't think it's hilly.
You get it going there and come back.
You know, and the craziest part is like the biggest hill is 350 feet. It's nothing. So it's literally you going up 50 feet, 75, over and over and over again, like a bajillion times.
So it's like rollers, but a little bit higher.
Endless rollers. Like death by
Those aren't so
cuts.
bad though.
Well, they're not bad until you do it for
I guess so.
long time.
You know, when you're breaking it up like that, you know, like the segments, and I always find that when you do stuff like that, when you start thinking about it that way, it's much easier to like put it into perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing that happens. You'll be on the road and you're like, oh, we only have 100 miles. Oh, that's not bad at all. Like,
I know. Yeah, and you get into that little mindset too. You're like, what's another 100K? You know,
honestly,
it's
like
true.
when you have 75 left, you're like, oh, we're done. That's totally chill. Whereas that's like an actual ride, you know?
Yeah.
So,
somebody would be like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so you just sort of, for us, we ish managed about 4-ish hours on each break. And then the last day, because the last day is kind of like a big push home, we did sleep in like a ditch for like 90 minutes. So we kind of took like a nap.
Do you kind of see people along the route in ditches?
Oh boy, all over the place. Like ditches, bus stops. I mean, some dudes were just sleeping with their face on the asphalt. Like, it was wild, just like zombies.
Did you get pictures?
Oh yeah, there's a few crazy photos. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God.
insane. And because it's a real thing. Like people fall asleep on the bike.
Oh yeah, I've done that once. I wasn't going
Really?
too fast,
Oh
but
my
I felt
gosh.
it's just like, eh.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like it's really scary to see it. You're just like, whoa. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, the naps are helpful for sure.
Did you take quite a few, like little power snoozes?
I think for us, like I don't I'm pretty good at managing like the sleep fatigue. That's not that bad. It's like the resting off the bike. Like, let's
Oh, that's
go.
hard getting back on.
You know, I feel like I trained, and I know we'll talk about training, but for me, I had legs the whole time. I was actually totally fine. It's your soft tissue that goes to complete garbage. Like your butt, your hands, all these things that you kind of
What about your toes?
I was actually okay on the toes. Yeah, I definitely for the first 125 miles, I like tightened my shoes too much.
Oh my
So
God, I did that too. But it took me like 2 hours to stop and like
oh,
do something about it. I was just like,
oh
and
yeah.
then my feet were never the same. And
Yeah.
they still
No,
aren't.
it's crazy. Like, oh, the numbing, like I think I had a numb finger for like a month afterwards. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens, but yeah, so
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, how many times did you bring clothes with you?
yes. So we actually had a drop bag. So this town called Ludiac is really the out and back. So the day one and the day two sleep spot. And so we had a drop bag in Ludiac. So that was nice. So I had fresh kit every day, right? Like
Yeah.
I would definitely anyone thinking of doing any ultra like event, like please invest the weight cost of having
Yeah.
another set of bibs. It's
I
totally
totally didn't. I
oh
don't know
yeah.
what. I was just like, oh, it's just gonna be 30 hours.
Ugh,
I just
yeah.
like, I'm like, oh my God, that was the worst
Yeah.
decision
Yeah.
ever. Because I couldn't sit, I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
stand on my pedals, my feet were
Yeah.
sore. I was just like,
Oh yeah.
I just skid off and walk my bike on the road.
It's pretty gnarly. I even go so deep. I mean, I did a lot of test rides and all these rando events leading up to it. I actually switch brands of bibs because I feel like the pressure points on like one set of,
Oh,
I
good
use
idea.
yeah, the Panormal ones, Escapism, I used those on day one. And then day two, I used an Azos brand. And then I went back to Panormal. And like, again, I don't know if that's proven or not, but for me, it works and it just feels like slightly different. So,
Well, if you've done a lot of long distance rides, you can I mean, that's the time to really figure it out. I mean, if
yeah.
you've been out there and you've done a 600K ride where you're going to
Mhm.
figure out a couple things,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
over that duration, go,
Oh, man.
okay.
Yeah.
Because then you got like 600, 600.
Mhm.
Well, that's like
That's
your
it.
ride.
Yeah. We pretty much the way it breaks out, it's like a big 4 day, 400-ish day. The second day is like a little shy on 400, and then the last day is another 400.
Yeah.
Again, give or take.
That's
Ish.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, so I'm glad you got, okay, let's talk a little bit about food.
Mm-hmm.
How
Yes.
much did you bring? Okay, now, okay, before food,
Mm-hmm.
talk about your bike setup. Were you
Yeah.
like, was your bike looking like a bike packing setup? Like you had
Mm.
the under the frame, under the top tube,
Mm-hmm.
out the back. Like how many
Yeah.
packs did you have?
Yeah. So the big thing with randonneuring is it's completely self-supported. So
Yeah.
now you can get help from someone. Like, I mean, if
Uh-huh.
you're on the side of the road, someone can help you, but there's no SAG support. There's
Right.
no,
Yep.
nobody's coming to, put a new derailleur hanger on for you.
Uh-huh.
So as far as my bike, I mean, that's actually my bike if you can.
Yeah, it's nice. Everybody look at
So
this. If you're
there you
on
go.
YouTube, you can check out her
Yeah,
bike right there,
that's my
hanging out the back. You
Mariposa.
don't want to see what's behind me.
Yeah.
I
But
haven't quite organized all that, but you can see some bikes back there too.
so leading into PBP, I actually had this bike built. So this is a Mariposa, built out of
Oh,
Toronto. So I had a
yeah,
little
Toronto.
piece of Canada with me, which was important for me. And I had a front bag that
Mm-hmm.
I put So this is my fueling mix. I call it hummingbird fuel. It's something that I make, and it's sugar, sodium citrate, and then like a flavoring agent like lemonade powder or something. And that's what I drank in my bottles. So throughout the whole time, I would have about 75 grams of carbs in my bottles. My bottles are 1 liter bottles. So
right. I have big ones too.
Yeah. And I could put 2 dumps of that. So I had 4 hours on my bike. So then that just helps your range. As far as more bags, I had a tiny frame bag built for me. There's this guy out of Oklahoma City called Steadyco. He's on Instagram at Steadyco. Beautiful stuff. I mean, his stuff is fantastic. And so because my frame is so small, he built this tiny little triangle bag for me that just sits in the front. I had a top tube bag also from Steadyco that I would put. So my frame bag was like my pharmacy, right? I had my chain oil and
some ibuprofen,
Tums, chamois.
I never even thought of that till I was like in pain.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Begging for it.
Yeah, exactly. There's kind of like all that was there. And then the top tube bag, that's where more food, my power bank charger, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
In the hub of that front wheel is a dynamo. So I have lights generated, so I don't have to worry about changing batteries. The lights
shut up.
Automatic. Yeah.
Dynamo hub in the front.
Definitely, if you're like getting into that ultra and long endurance events, I would strongly recommend getting a dynamo hub. It's just, I think there's something in the mental effort of having to think about stuff, and the mental load that you can unload is huge. And if you don't have to worry about batteries and charging lights and all this crap, that's one massive thing you don't have to think about. So I use a dynamo, and then in the back I had an Apidura 18-liter seat bag, and so that's where I had all my rain gear in case I needed it. I had a down jacket, those Rafa stuffable down jackets. I had more hummingbird mix. I had what else did I have in there? I actually can give you like my packing list because it's pretty extensive. My other set of bibs, stuff like that. And then I have a third water bottle cage mount, and that's actually where I put all my tools. So in a little canister. And, and in there I had like a spare derailleur hanger and like all sorts of different items that you might not think to bring, chain links, stuff like that. But yeah, so that's essentially my setup, which since you're sleeping, like since I did have a bag drop, I didn't have to bring all my clothes with me. But sometimes you do. I mean, sometimes you look exactly like a bike packer with all that sort of big rig stuff.
Did you have a bladder, like a backpack?
No, I didn't want anything on me.
I know, that's the thing. I just like nothing on your body.
Not a fan. So that way, I mean, obviously I had vest. You have to wear a reflective vest. That's part of the rules. So mine had pockets, which is great. I like to have stuff in my pockets, but I don't like to have anything on me because it's just like extra weight. And I don't know. I don't like the feeling.
Well, it's like the extra sweating, but sometimes I found it kept me cooler for some reason.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But then it aggravated my hips.
Oh, yeah.
Like the rubbing. The rubbing.
Yeah.
Until I took my jacket off and wrapped it around my hips, and I'm like, oh, that feels a whole lot better.
There you go.
I don't have to worry about my back.
You get resourceful in these things.
See, like I didn't go out for these massive long rides to prepare me. I was 100K, and so you can like suffer through 100K, or like just gets easier and easier. But then, it's the extra 200 to 300 that start becoming problematic.
Yeah.
So that's a cool setup. So you didn't have much else for food?
So as far as what I do is 75 grams an hour of, like I said, essentially this sugar carbohydrate mix. And then I would supplement other food as I felt like eating it. Personally, I like to drink my calories. I find it really tough. Like for me to eat 75 grams an hour would be really difficult. So I know that I always get my hydration and my fuel. And then I can eat on top of that. So in the long endurance events, I probably go 75 to 95 grams an hour, depending on how I'm feeling. And then the other big move is McDonald's. So I am a massive fan. If anyone from McDonald's wants to sponsor,
oh my God.
like,
It's so true.
can someone please call McDonald's? I want to be a McDonald's sponsored athlete. That's the only thing I want out of this whole.
Only if you're doing randonneuring.
Yeah, that's true. But it's, to me, like, I know it sounds, again, kind of crazy, but
it doesn't. I'll tell it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's dense in calories. It's fast. It's consistent. And, you know, when you're riding this long, you just want something that's not, like, you want savory, you know, and like McDonald's fries. Oh, they hit. It's just beautiful. Yeah. So
I tried to do it all natural food, like stuff that I either made or I purchased. However, I did not test, I guess, and I'm not sure if it was just my my refrigeration system, but the stuff that I made went like rancid in the heat before I even got to it. I was just like, and it was like a huge majority of my food. Like I did sweet potatoes, like just stuff like that, and some pasta, and it just went bad. I was like, okay, I got to rethink that. And then because we stopped at these gas stations, I'm like, okay, I went in and bought a cheeseburger. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I was like, I felt like a new person.
I tell you,
like, seriously. And then I bought 3 more.
Yeah.
And was like, that's all I'm going to eat.
Oh, no.
One every like segment.
It's like rocket fuel. You have, it's so good. And it I don't know. I was really concerned at first because I was like, oh, all this fat, is that going to sit really weird in my gut? It just incinerates because your body is just so in need of calories at that point. So, yeah, listeners, I would encourage you, if you're doing a century or any long event, like find a McDonald's, a Burger King,
and buy a couple and take it with you. Because you know what? You know those things don't go bad.
Yeah.
Because that's why I'm like, next time I'm just gonna buy some sausage egg McMuffins.
There you go.
And some hash browns, and like seriously, I'll just like, you know, I'll eat one every 5 hours, plus my other food, just to like as a boost.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
oh man,
I always felt like a new person. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, no.
It works great. And also, like, we looked at the route. Again, you have to be self-sufficient. So for us, we knew, okay, there's a McDonald's in Fougères and there's another one here. And so that would be kind of like a rest point for us too, right? So it was nice, like when you're doing those long miles, just to get off the bike is a huge help. Like it just psychologically, physically really helps renew you. And then you're like, okay, let's go for another, 20 whatever hours.
I'm like, yeah. But it's funny how your mindset changes when you've really trained for that. So let's talk about training. Yeah. So I'm glad that you didn't just eat. It's so funny, McDonald's. Yeah. Because I just listened to a lot of other pros that have done like stuff like Unbound, and they talk about how they go into these gas stations and train, like to train their stomach to eat junk. Yeah. I know it's like, there's no way that I can eat chips and chocolate and all that stuff. Is you just go to like the food, whether it's like a burger.
Yeah.
That's like, I just like, oh my God. I just look at all this stuff and I'm like, nothing appeals to me, but I know I've got to eat something because now half my food's gone.
Yeah.
But it was really, it was eye-opening. I was like,
But that is part of the training too. Like I think a lot of people hear that, and it's really important, not only just your fueling mix, but like, so in the training leading up to this, obviously we did these long randonneur rides, but then I would do a simulation ride. And so that simulated absolutely everything. So I didn't come back to my house. We did like a 600 or 800K weekend, I think. And we stayed in a hotel. I had to make my drink mix. Everything was done as if I was in France trying to recreate this event. And so, I mean, that's where, I realized, oh yeah, like I didn't bring my Di2 charger. So I'm doing an 800K weekend prepping for this thing, and I totally forgot my Di2 charger. And of course my Di2 died. And I was like, well, this is a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
And that I went to a bike store to charge the bike. It was fine. But the point is in the middle of nowhere, France, I always had my Di2 cord. I was like ready, and I charged it every night, even though I didn't need to. Like, the range is about 1,000 kilometers, but I didn't want to get stuck out.
Yeah.
So, again, you do these training sort of like preps to get ready for the actual event. And as far as training, like the daily training, a lot of it you can't do, like, I'm going to ride my bike for 6 hours on a Tuesday. So it'd be a lot of sweet spot, 2x20s, a couple crisscross intervals. There would be like 2 days of intervals each week, but the intervals being more like sweet spot sort of tempo intervals.
Yeah.
Just to help you through any surges in the terrain and stuff. And then the weekends, it was just about ramping up a lot of volume. And
right. Well, yeah. So like you said, your legs felt fresh all the time. And that is because they're used to doing all that volume. It's just like, oh yeah.
No, for sure. It was, I think the mantra that I had was like, train hard so you can ride easy. And it was so true. Like, we had fun. Like, we were like on the event.
Was there like a whole gang from like your club that went out and did it?
There was 100 people from the San Francisco Randonneurs. It was amazing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was wild. And then,
that is wild.
A Canadian, like I met this other person through Instagram, and next thing you know, we actually finished together. So like,
oh, cool.
It was so cool. Like David and Richard and myself, that's my husband, Richard. Yeah, it was just like a total vibe. And so I think the three of us, we all trained really hard because we wanted to have fun during the event. You could see the people that didn't train hard and they were just like falling apart. And it's a hard event. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sugarcoat this. But I think any event that you're looking at, take your training seriously so that you can kind of live the experience or deal with whatever craziness is going to happen during the event. Like, who knows? That we were lucky. No mechanicals, no rain, no barely like 20 minutes of rain. It was super.
Oh my God. It would have been a whole different story if it had rained long. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. We always say that if it rained a lot more, it would have been like totally
miserable. Show. Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh.
So did you have somebody helping you with your training, or was it just something that the club itself put out and said, like, okay, we have 100 people. This is kind of like the training calendar. We're going to be putting on all these rides, and you just follow what's going on.
Some
pretty
people
much
did that. I have a bike coach that I work with, and so it was funny because she didn't like. No one from the racing world really does randonneuring, right? Like, even in the like cycling community, randonneuring is still this like, what is that? Oh, that's that old guys that wear the crazy neon. Like, it's like that sort of thing, right? And so it was interesting working with her because she's like, okay, well, let's really think about this, and just trying to get applying her background as a ex-pro racer, but then figuring out how to do something for me in these very long sustained sort of efforts. And so it was interesting. I think we both learned along the way a little bit together, but it was helpful to know that someone was in my corner and just making sure, like, I don't know, is my training volume okay? Should I be doing this much? Should I be doing less? Like, so she definitely kept me honest about a lot of that.
How was she able to help you? She'd never done anything to that capacity.
I think it was just like, you think of what you would do for a race, and then you sort of extend it for
times it by 5.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, and I mean, I'm not doing VO2 max intervals. Like, I don't need to like sprint at the end. Like, none of that needs to happen. It's really just like, how do I make sure that I get you to a level of fitness that you can sustain this pace and this endurance for this long? And she definitely.
So what was your pace, Lisa? Sound like you had a good tempo.
It was pretty good. I mean, it's hard because when they give you your results, they include the stopping time. So including my stopping time, my pace was 15 kilometers an hour, which sounds like, glacial. But I mean,
oh my God. Well, if you can do 15, so
yeah, exactly. So but that includes sleeping and all those sort of things,
right?
Like sitting, having your McDonald's, really whatever.
Ruins my average.
Yeah. But just for context, there was a individual, this man that I won't say won, but he did finish first. So again, randonneuring is not it's a timed event, but there's no winners. You don't get a medal for being the first one. Like you get the first result, the end. So this guy wanted the course record and he got it. And I think it was 45 hours. Like, it's just insane. Yeah. He was like aero bars the whole time. He had a support squad behind him that would like come up and ask him if he needed stuff, like bottles on the bike, like almost like that.
I thought you said that was that elite? Was that allowed?
Well, I mean, if someone is next to you giving you bottles, it's not allowed, but it's not exactly like, I wouldn't say anyone else on the course does that, right? So this guy was trying to get a result. But yeah, so his pace, I think, was 30 kilometers an hour. Like, he was like twice as fast as me, but he stopped for 90 minutes. So that's just to give you a sense of like the sublime to the ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That is wild.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go.
So okay, so your training was from your coach, and your husband, was he just following what the other guys were doing?
He was following what I was doing. So yeah, so we trained together, and I think that's another thing too with randonneuring, is that as a woman
you have to have somebody training with you.
I mean,
especially if you're a partner.
I think it's cool. I think it's the kind of sporting event that is very equal, in the sense that you're not getting dropped in a group because the group is doing zone 1 forever, right? Like, you're not, as a woman, you're not at a disadvantage. In fact, in a way, there's a slight advantage, in my opinion, just because you don't have to take in the volume of calories that a dude does per hour, right? Like, being a smaller frame size, I can get away with my 75 grams, and dudes might have to eat more during that time. So I find it personally, and that's why I kind of hope I can encourage more women to try some of these endurance events.
What was the average about?
Oh,
like, just eyeballing.
No, it's pretty dismal.
1 per 5%. I was gonna say women. One woman per 5 guys.
Yeah, no, not even
less
close.
than that.
I mean,
1 per 10.
Of the 6,800 participants, I think 450 are women.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad. So, I mean, it'd be great. I think that's why, again, I'm just sort of like, I'm hoping, like, on my Instagram, which, if I can plug my Instagram.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes, Hustle and a Half. You can follow me there. And I mean, I'm encouraging everyone to try randonneuring, just because I think it's a great event and sport, but specifically women, because I think it's one of those things where it doesn't have the competition aspect like maybe a race does, but it's still timed, and you're still working to your own ability, and you want to complete something, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a different modality. Like, it's not the same pressure. Like, I'm in a race, I have to win. Like, everyone's there to be supportive, and in fact, it's a pretty supportive community to that effect.
I suppose that's kind of how I felt when I did XL. Like, it was a much smaller group. All the competition was in the 200 miler, so that's where everybody was watching, and it was like probably 2,000 people in that one. 200 in ours, and so it was like, it felt way more chill. But of course, it is kind of a timed event. You had a certain amount of time you had to do it in. But I kind of like that, because there felt like no pressure, because there wasn't like, and even though I was by myself on probably half of it, Well, maybe not half of it. That's not true. Maybe a quarter. I was by myself. I was okay with it because I mean, I've been riding by myself.
Yeah.
And but that was 500 kilometers, and that's something that I never ever thought in my lifetime I would be doing.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And I was just like, but I've done a lot of adventure racing, like 36 hours, 4 days, 6 days. So I was just like, and I didn't put the two into context until I started training and preparing for it. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot like what I used to do when I was 30.
Yeah.
Like I'm 50 now. But I just like, and then the way you talk about just chunking it up into bite-sized pieces where I just need to do this. Okay, now that's done. I need that, make it to that town and things like that. But what else? What's next in your
my rando career?
Your rando career? Or are you going to start doing like the was that?
Yeah, I think it's transcontinental, like in Europe.
No, the Great Divide.
Oh, Tour Divide. Absolutely not.
Tour Divide.
Ever in a million.
Oh,
years.
come on. That is just that's like 19,000. Come on. I mean, you could do it. That's 19 days.
Yeah. There's a very
21 days. 30. There's no start.
Yeah.
There's just a start. You could just finish it whenever.
Oh man. In my head, there's a very big step change. I mean, randonneuring for the most part is on road. It's a paved surface. Like maybe there's a couple sections of some gravel, but like it is nowhere near even the Excel event you did. I mean, that's a whole other planet. I feel like the level of like bike mechanic skills I would need are far exceed my current capacity. And whenever you put something else like that into the mix, it's like a whole other, like if you were riding rapids, you know how they're like, this is a class 1, like all of a sudden it's a class 5, you know? So no, I will not be doing Tour Divide probably ever in my life, or even the XL that you did. Congratulations. Cause
that's like a walk in the park for you.
God, no way. But yeah, like I love doing these long distance events. And so my next one that I'm looking at is a 1,200 kilometer in June of 2024 in Sweden. And so it's a banger. So it starts in a town called Umeå, which forgive me, Swedish people, I don't know how to say it properly, but it's 6 hours north of Stockholm. And then you go north and you go kind of through Norway, and then you go through the Arctic Circle. And then you come back down into the start town. So it's kind of like a big loop. And it's going to be June 16th, which means it's like 24 hours of daylight. So it's going to be pretty wild.
That's like 6 months from now. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I know. So yeah, like for right now, I'm in my off season. I'm weightlifting. I'm kind of like working on that sort of mode of fitness. And then in January, we'll start to get the volume going back up. I'll do another randonneur series, and then I'll go to Sweden in June. So
there's another one, and I don't remember what it was. It's in Ireland or Scotland, and it's like 1,100 kilometers.
Yeah,
some like across. Oh geez, I forget her name. I interviewed a girl who did it.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's cool.
I'll connect you guys, but I'll give you her name. She's on Instagram as well.
Oh, cool.
And because she I think she won this competition through her company to do this. It was just something really weird that she landed in this like in this event, and then she's just like, she's not even a cyclist, but she got a coach, and she finished it, and it was really cool. I was like, holy crap.
Wow.
But the thing I'm looking, like, I get inspired by ladies like you ladies that no, but seriously, because like I honestly never thought I would do something like Excel. I mistakenly registered for it, but anyways, I did it, and I'm gonna actually go back because I didn't actually finish it. I was 60K from the end when they told me my race was over because I didn't meet the cutoff
Yeah.
And then I found out a guy finished it in 48 hours. I was like,
that's lame.
oh, I was so mad. Anyway, so I'm going to go back. So
Oh,
now
good
I'm
for
just
you.
like,
Yeah.
I just, yeah. So I'm going to go back and finish it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is it's getting into that mindset where you can go and do longer things and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
capable of them. Like
For
some
sure.
people like, it's like say like 6 years ago or even 4 or 5 years ago, I would never
Mhm.
thought of doing
Yeah,
something like this. Would be
of course.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sit like that
Hmm.
until they start pushing that level where it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
50K, 60K,
Yeah.
100K, 125, 150,
Yeah.
200. And
Yeah, exactly. No,
and
and I think it's so important. Like, it's all relative, right? If
yeah.
100K is your PBP, then go get it. You know what I mean? I think our lives are so chill, right? Like, nothing in our lives are really that difficult. And I'm talking like food, shelter, like the basic primal needs of our lives. And so, in a way, I like to think of these events as like, let's see, again, this is me, but let's see what hard things I can do, right? Like, let's test the abilities. Let's see how far we can go. And I thrive off of that challenge, but that's because I'm built that way. And
Mhm.
I know, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. There are dark moments in these rides. I mean, there are moments where I did a 600K and it's like, I don't know, 2 a.m, and I've been on my bike for 19 hours and I'm like, I'm over this. Like, I actually remember I was like, I'm going to leave my body now because I don't want to be here anymore. And I was like visualizing me floating above myself as I'm biking in the middle of California at like 2 a.m. Like, it's just, your head does some weird stuff. But like, you're made of such strong things and stuff. Like, you are a very capable human being. And if you just sort of like have the determination. I'm not saying you're always going to succeed. I mean, you might not make the finish of that XL, but you know that you have that in you, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like you build on that. And I think that
Hmm.
to me is the exciting part of all of these events.
Yeah, because that's so for next year, I decided I'm going to go back and do that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I found out there's a 500K uh great backpacking. I have it in front of me.
Mm.
Great backpacking great pack great no great bike packing challenge
Okay.
around Magog and Bromont and
Mm.
Sutton. I'm
Oh,
like,
neat.
man, that's
There you
like down
go.
the road from me. I mean,
Totally.
I was that would be just gorgeous to do. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do both these
Mm-hmm.
two events
That's cool.
this next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think
yeah.
that's, I don't know, like for me, having something on the calendar to work towards
Hmm.
gives me a focus. And I feel like now my riding has like a purpose. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a coffee ride, I love hanging with my buddies. Like, that is my social circle. Like, cycling is my social community.
Yeah.
But I also like having a goal to work towards, because then I feel
Oh.
like I know why I'm doing this interval right now. Like,
Hmm.
all of this is going to something. And so I personally feel like it's really important that if you're losing focus or you kind of don't have the motivation, like, get an event and put it on the calendar and hold yourself accountable to that.
Yeah.
It's something that will just give you a little bit more of a clearer view of why are you in this why are you sitting on your trainer right now in your basement, right? Like, give yourself
Totally.
that sense of purpose. And yeah, just so you don't feel like you're kind of always just hanging out.
I am totally into that. And that's why like I've got my winter program. I'm like, okay, what is your goal? Why are
Mm-hmm.
you here? Because
Yeah.
it's crazy because like, if people are like, oh, I can't think about next year. What are you talking about? I was
Yeah.
thinking about in August.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I going to do
Yeah.
next year?
Yeah.
And it's true. You need that little carrot to keep you going when the days
Mm-hmm.
are long and you're
Yeah.
unmotivated and things like that.
Indeed.
So So next year you are going to Sweden.
Yes. So
All right.
that's the next year. And then actually 2025, I've already figured it out. I'm going to do London, Edinburgh, London. And so that's a 1,500 kilometer ride. So we're going to up the ante in 2025.
There's also a transcontinental.
Oh, yes. That's true.
Have you heard about that one? That one's
Yes.
got about 5 different countries in it or something.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty
It's
wild.
like a loop. But the cool thing about that one is that you're given checkpoints and you can get there any way you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I mean,
that one, I think that was pretty epic. Not too many people do that one.
No, and I mean, unless someone wants to like pay me to go do that. I have a job.
I'm like, that would be a very touristic-y one.
I mean, I do have to go to work at some point, so
what? Does she have everything automated, Lisa?
Yeah.
Come on, like
totally. Yeah, really. Oh man.
All right, I'll just do a cap cut video and I'll send it off to you while I'm sitting in the toilet. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh god. Oh man.
Well, that is super cool. So, can you just share with us, if anybody's in your neck of the woods, where can they find a randonneuring club?
Yeah.
Is there like a hub, an international hub for somebody to join or get more information from? Because
yeah, totally. I mean, in the US, it's Randonneurs USA, and so I would go to that and Randonneurs USA, and you can find a randonneur club near you. Now, I think Canada, I think you have to maybe just do the Google, and I know there's Ontario Randonneurs, Quebec Randonneurs, there's a BC association. So you can find a chapter within sort of your province, and sometimes the province is the chapter. I think it's like the Randonneurs of Quebec or something. But there's randonneur clubs all over the world. I mean, absolutely everywhere. It's a very international sport. I mean, there's people coming from Singapore to do Paris Brest Paris. I mean, it's everywhere. So I would find those clubs, and they're probably just to level set. All right, they're probably a bunch of dudes that are in their mid to late 50s. They're wearing probably a neon kit or some sort of high vis. I mean, you know, it's not your like hipster club ride, okay? But it's just a different style. I personally find it very charming and alluring, and I like it, but I just kind of want to preface it. It's going to be a different vibe, just so you know.
That's where you get all the good information experiences from these guys.
There's some dudes that have seen some stuff. I mean, you can't sort of like dismiss the I'll say in air quotes, the old guys on the bike. I mean, these folks have done some miles, and they are an endless wealth of information. It's pretty incredible.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Okay, so where can everybody find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram is Hustle and a Half, and I share my rides. I share tips on cycling. I'm hoping I can be a resource for people about randonneuring, and also just sort of inspire people to try to do longer rides, whatever longer means to you.
Yes, that's right. It starts somewhere, and then it could grow to these epic weekend long rides.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's been so awesome, Lisa, to have you on the podcast. And like the next time you're in town, which is probably going to be like maybe July when you're recovering, maybe, or maybe on your way back from Sweden, you have to look me up.
I totally will. No, we'll go for a ride.
We'll go for a ride. Yeah, we'll do the Champlain Lookout like everybody else.
That'd be beautiful. Yeah, a park loop. Got to do park loop.
Go do a park loop. And so I look forward to watching you on Instagram and checking out all your videos and watching. Well, we're all going to be busy in June cycling.
Yeah,
but that's going to be super cool seeing you in Sweden.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this has been fun.
Thank you again. And thanks to all of our listeners. I hope you guys or gals go and follow Lisa on Instagram. And, you know, if you're interested in something epic like that, like it's always interesting to look into. Like sometimes like you just never know where you're going to end up when you're cycling because there's so many cool things that are happening these days. You know, that are just coming more forward, like the bike packing, the bike touring, you know, like the randonneuring, gravel, all these things are super interesting. So have an amazing day. Thanks so much again. And we'll see everybody on the next podcast. Take care.
Thanks.
Oh my God. Was Lisa not amazing? I don't know if she's inspired me to do get into randonneuring because that is just too much riding for a mom. But I am super inspired about bike packing, and I'd love all the information that she provided because I had no idea about the details of Paris Brest Paris and just you know, training for these rides and how they're structured. So I don't know. Put in the comments on YouTube if you happen to be there, if that's something that you do or you would like to do. And if you're going to go check out randonneuring.com, the international and find your club close to you and find out some information, that's super cool. I'd love to know if that's something that would interest you. So with that, have an amazing day and don't forget to ride your bike, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day, make sure you ride your bike, and don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.